In this tutorial, we will be covering the required setup steps that are necessary to complete in order to use the data collection module within Total ABA. You may find it beneficial to first watch the data collection training video in order to understand some of the concepts that will be shown in this video. All of the setup steps shown in this video can be found from the Clinical Setup section. To access this section, first click on the plus box in the navigation bar, then locate the Clinical Setup section. The main feature used when collecting data in Total ABA is the lesson plan, found at the bottom of the list. The first 4 items on the list are there to help you organize your lesson plans. Those are curriculums, therapy types, lesson categories and subcategories, and lesson contexts. Lesson plan templates help to streamline the creation of your lesson plans to make building your library faster and more efficient. Let's start by discussing therapy types. When creating lesson plans, therapy types are required, so you'll need to go through this step before you're able to create any lesson plans. Therapy types are used to organize your lesson plans by discipline. For example, you can use therapy types to separate lesson plans that pertain to ABA, speech, OT, and any others you may have in your center. Creating therapy types is quick and easy. First, click on Therapy Types. Then, click on the New Therapy Type button at the top of the page. Simply enter the name of the therapy type, and then press Save. Next, we'll move on to curriculums. Setting up curriculums is optional. Curriculums can be used to organize your lesson plans into industry standard curriculums or any curriculums that are specific to your center. To create curriculums, first click on the curriculum section and then press the New Curriculum button at the top of the page. Give the curriculum a name. Optionally, select the therapy type that particular curriculum applies to. Finally, enter any comments if necessary, and then press the Save button. Repeat the process for any other curriculums that you wish to place into your system. The next setup step is lesson categories and subcategories and is a required setup step. Categories and subcategories allow you to organize your lesson plans into a tree-like structure. Doing so makes the searching and selecting of lesson plans much easier when you're associating lesson plans to treatment goals on your students' treatment plans. Shown on your screen here are some basic examples of some categories. After you've created some categories, you'll then want to create some subcategories underneath of them. For example, on your screen here is the detail page for the category Activities of Daily Living. Underneath of that category, we have a number of subcategories listed. Once you have your subcategories created, you'll then organize your lesson plans underneath of your subcategories. So the lesson tree format essentially looks like this. You have your high-level category. Underneath the category, you can have multiple subcategories. And then underneath each subcategory, you can have multiple lesson plans. To create your categories, first click on the Categories section, then click on New Lesson Category. Give the category a name and press Save. After creating your category, open up the category detail page and press New Lesson Subcategory in order to create the subcategories underneath of it. Repeat this process for as many category and subcategories as you feel necessary for your center. Once you've created your categories and subcategories, you're ready to start creating your lesson plans. However, before we cover that topic, let's discuss one more optional method of organizing your lesson plans, and that is lesson contexts. Lesson context is yet another way to help organize your lessons. Context examples are group therapy, one-on-one, conversations, and more. This is an optional feature and may not be necessary. So now that we've covered the basic steps to keep you organized, let's go into the main topic of creating lesson plans. First, let's click on the lesson plan section to see all of the previously created lesson plans within my system. Next, click on New Lesson Plan. First, give the lesson plan a descriptive name. Next, select the required therapy type. Lesson plan templates will be covered later in the video. For now, we'll skip this field and move on down to curriculum. As stated earlier in the video, curriculums are optional, but if you want to use them, select the appropriate curriculum for this particular lesson plan. The next step is to select the required category and subcategory. If you decide to use the optional lesson context feature, select the context here. The target group feature on the right is an optional free-form text field that can be used to group together lessons when reporting. The additional details and lesson instruction fields are available to place communications to the therapist who will be performing the lessons. An example would be instructions on how to perform the lessons. These items can be edited on individual treatment plans for individual students if needed. Now, let's move down to the collection screen information section. In the Target Observations field, enter the number of observations that ideally should be collected during a session. Next, check or uncheck the Include Protests section checkbox. If checked, the protest section will appear for this lesson on the data collection screen. The protest section allows you to enter either a yes or no if there was a protest during the lesson. If you wish to force your therapist to make a protest selection, then check the Require Protest Selection checkbox to the right. Next, let's move down to the prompt section. If you wish to record the prompt used when performing the lesson, then you'll want to set up the applicable prompts that you wish to have available for selection during this lesson. To do so, simply press Add New and then give the prompt a name. After you've added your prompts, use the up and down links on the left side in order to rearrange them in the order that you want them to appear on the data collection screen. If you wish to require your therapist to make a prompt selection when collecting data, then check the Require Prompt Selection checkbox. Now, let's move down to responses. Responses are the main type of data that are collected when performing the lesson. Each lesson can have one or more responses. Data collected in responses can be recorded in a number of different types, including yes/no responses, a 1 to 10 scale, a scoring percentage, a numeric value, free text, or a pick list. To add your first response, press the Add New button and then give it a name. Next, select your response type. A response type of yes and no allows the therapist to enter a yes or no response. 1 through 10 allows them to enter a value between 1 and 10. A scoring percentage is a number between 0 and 100. Numeric allows them to enter any number for the response. And free text allows them to enter any pertinent text that may need to be added into the field. A pick list allows the therapist to choose from a list of predefined values, exactly as this response type field is set up. If the pick list option is selected, you then need to define what values you would like to appear in the pick list using the pick list values field. Separate each value by hitting the Enter key. For example, if I wanted to have the values in the pick list be red, blue, and green, I would type them in as shown. To see some of these response types in action, please refer to the data collection training video. To the right of the pick list values field, you have the Required checkbox. Checking this checkbox forces the therapist to make a selection before saving the lesson. Finally, you have the ability to define help text, which will allow you to place text in that the therapist can see on the response. If you wish to add more than one response to this lesson, simply press the Add New button a second time and repeat the process. Once you've completed filling out all of these details, you can save the lesson plan, and then repeat the process for any additional lesson plans that need to be created. From this last part of the tutorial, you can see that there can be a number of steps that go into creating a lesson plan, and your center may need to create a high volume of lesson plans. So let's talk about a few ways that you can streamline the building of your lesson plan library. The first method is the clone button. Once you've created your first lesson plan and need to create a second one in the same format, you can make an identical copy of it, change the name, and save it. To do so, click on the lesson plan that you wish to clone, then press the clone button at the top of the page. Next, change the name and any other attributes that you wish to change, and press Save. As you can see, this can save you time in that you don't have to start each lesson plan from scratch. The next method is to create lesson plan templates. If you have similar formats for each of your lessons, then lesson plan templates can save you a lot of time when creating your lessons. For example, if you always have one response with a yes/no option and always use the same prompts over and over. To create lesson plan templates, go to the Lesson Plan Template section from Clinical Setup, and then press New Lesson Plan Template at the top of the page. The new lesson plan template screen looks almost identical to the lesson plan screen and can be filled out the same manner as we discussed earlier. The thing to keep in mind is that you want to keep things fairly generic on templates as they'll be used over and over again. Anything filled out on this form will be copied into the new lesson plan screen when this template is applied. Here, I've created a generic ABA trial run template with 4 prompts and 1 response. Now to use a template, first create a new lesson plan, then in the lesson plan template field, select the appropriate template. After applying the template, you'll see that any information that was placed into the template is automatically filled out on the new lesson plan screen. This will be very useful if you use the same information over and over again on multiple lesson plans, such as prompts and responses. Once you have gone through the steps shown in this tutorial, you'll be ready to start collecting data. Keep in mind, you can always build your library as you go. So as long as you have your most common lesson plans in, you can always add the rest down the road. This concludes the tutorial. Thank you.